What's up, my friend? Welcome to the Finding Direction podcast. My name is Stu Massengill, and I'm here every single week to bring you a passionate guest or message dedicated to helping you find your purpose so that you can live a life full of passion, fulfillment, and happiness. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for hanging out with me, and let's dive in. What is up, you beautiful soul? Welcome back to the podcast as we dive into today's conversation all around fear and exploring what is fear really and how do we start to break through that fear in those moments in our life when fear shows up. And before we dive into the juicy goodness that we're going to be talking about today, I thought we could kick today's episode off with practicing a little bit of gratitude. Because isn't it true that sometimes in life we can be going so fast, we can have so many things going on, it feels like life zips by, right? Already as you listen to this episode, we are more than halfway into October, more than 10 months into 2022, and it sounds crazy to say, but that's how life is sometimes. It can just zoom right by us. So I figured today as we kick this thing off, let's take a moment and let's practice a little bit of gratitude. And as we do that, I just want you to think real quick of what are one or two things that you could be extremely grateful for in your life right now. Maybe it's a relationship that you have in your life, whether that's a friendship, whether that's a intimate relationship. Maybe it's something that's happened in your life recently. Maybe it's some family you could be grateful for. Maybe it's the fact that your heart beats 100,000 times a day and you don't even have to think about it. Maybe it's that you have a fresh breath of air in your lungs and you don't have to do anything to earn that other than literally just breathe and be given this gift of air that you've been given. So think of one or two things you can be grateful for. And I want you to not just intellectually think of that thing, but for a second, I want you to really feel that. Maybe put your hands on your heart and feel the gratitude that you have for some of these small or big things in your life. And as you do that, we're going to center ourselves in this place of gratitude because truly, there's so many beautiful things that come from this place. We can enjoy our lives deeper if we live in a place of gratitude. We can bring more things into our life that we enjoy if we live in gratitude. And we can go through every single day of our life enjoying our life because we're focused on gratitude. We're focused on the beautiful gifts that we have in our life rather than getting caught up in the things that we don't have, the things that we haven't achieved, the reasons we're not good enough, right? If we can just focus on gratitude and living in that space, so many beautiful things will come in our life. So take one more second to feel that gratitude in your heart, in your body. Feel it, own it, enjoy it. All right. Now let's dive in now that we're nice and centered in gratitude. Let's dive into this week's episode where, again, we're going to be talking about fear and we're going to be talking about what is fear really and how can we begin to break through fear. And on today's episode, I want to give you specifically two specific things you can do to really start to understand fear at a deeper level, and then ways you can use that new understanding to really break through and move through that fear to create a greater life for yourself. And we're going to wrap up today's episode with a quote around fear that is one of my favorite quotes in the world, and it's something that I reference and I go back to often. It's literally a quote I have on my wall because it means so much to me, and I want to share that with you at the end of today's episode if you stick around. So the first thing that we want to do is we start to understand what fear is and understand how we break through it is when you have fear show up in your life, right? Maybe fear shows up because you are pursuing something in your life that you really want, and maybe there's fear around, are you going to be able to do it, right? Maybe there's fear around, well, what if you don't achieve it? And what if you get rejected, right? Maybe there's fear of you go for it and you fail. right? There's so many different types of fear that can show up in your life, in our life. And so whether that fear showing up because you're going for a new opportunity in your life, maybe fear showing up because you're trying to take another step in your career, maybe fear showing up because you know that you're called for something different and there's this just fear that's living in you that is so scared of taking that step. And wherever there's fear showing up in your life, and I'd encourage you to find a place so we can really actually work through this fear today. But wherever there's fear showing up in your life, the first thing I really want you to understand on what fear really is fear is first and foremost a defense mechanism, right? So when fear shows up in your life, when fear is currently showing up in your life, you want to start to ask yourself, well, what is this fear really here to do? Like at the end of the day, what is this fear showing up for in my life? And the truth is, if we go back to our caveman, cavewoman days, the reason fear showed up is because if there was a lion outside your den, if there was, a predator that was coming, fear had to kick on a response in your body. So you would all of a sudden activate and you would protect yourself from literally dying. And we've held on to that sort of instinctual response. And now things show up in our life that are not life-threatening, but we still have the life-threatening response that shows up. So we have to learn to use it. And so when fear shows up in your life in a non-life-threatening way, right? If you're, having something that's life-threatening, you really got to do something about this fear. But the fear we're talking about today is not the life-threatening type. And so when the fear shows up in your life, you want to start to ask yourself again, what is this fear really here to do? And the truth is that all fear is really here to do in your life is it's here to protect you. All right? Fear shows up because it's your body's response going, man, there's something scary out here and I need to protect myself. Right? I need to defend. I need to stay safe. I need to make sure that I am not going to die. That's what fear's showing up for. And so when fear shows up, one of the ways that you can start to break through fear is when fear shows up in your life, first and foremost, what you really want to begin to do is you want to begin to thank fear. You want to begin to acknowledge the fear. You want to begin to build a relationship with it, right? Simply, you could say to fear, right? You could say it out loud internally, whatever works for you, but you want to begin to thank fear for showing up and having such a good intention in your life to protect you, to keep you safe, to keep you out of harm's way. And once you acknowledge this fear and you say, fear, I know you're showing up, and this is scary and you want to protect me. And I really want to thank you for that because I know you have my best interest, right? And what happens when you start to thank fear is you start to take some of the power away from it, right? Because when you start to thank it, all of a sudden, fear's not controlling you. It's almost like you're now dancing with fear. So you thank it. And then what you want to do is now that you've thanked the fear, you said, I appreciate you for being here in my life. You want to begin to start to declare why you still must take action anyway, right? So let's say, for example, that you're doing something in your life with your career right now, and you're going, you know what? I know this isn't really what I want to do with my life. And I know there's something else that I want to do, but I'm scared to take the leap. I'm scared to jump into the unknown. I'm scared to, take a different path. I'm scared to maybe go against other people's opinions of what they think I should be doing with my life, whatever it is, right? Maybe you need to move to something else, but there's fear that shows up. So how you can work through it is you go, hey, fear, I know that you're here to protect me. And I know that, taking this next path that there's not a ton of certainty around is scary. And there's a lot of unknowns and fear. I just want to thank you because I know you're here to protect me and I know you're here to have my best intentions and to make sure I'm safe. But fear, I have to do this. I have to do this still because blankety, blankety, blank. Right? And what you want to do there is you want to fill in all the reasons on why you still must take this action. All right? Because that's going to give you leverage to take the action even when those moments of fear come up in your life. So let me give you an example of my own life. About 4.5 years ago, I was basically throwing one of my first speaking events that I really thought of the idea, I came up with, and it was at San Diego State. And I had so much fear around promoting this event, doing this event. What if people weren't going to get the things they, that I really wanted them to get out of this event? And as we went through this process, as I went through this process to plan this event, I literally had so much fear show up in my body that, I kid you not, I almost wanted to throw up because I had so much fear. It was coursing through every vein in my body. But when that fear showed up, I knew I was called to do this. So I used this exact process where fear showed up in my life and I said, thank you for protecting me. Thank you for being here to have my best intentions. But fear, I need to do this event because I'm called to it, because I need to make an impact on people, because I know that I'm here to make a difference, because I know that anybody that shows up, if I give my best effort, I'm going to be able to make a difference in their life. I need to do this because if I don't, it's going to be one of the biggest regrets that I'll ever have in my life. And I just went on an absolute tangent of why I must do this regardless of the fear being here. And as I continued to promote and get ready for that event, fear would show up every single day, almost every single hour. And anytime fear would show up when I was taking this new action in my life, I would thank it. Anytime fear would show up, I go, thank you for being here to protect me. But I must do this because of, and I literally wrote this list out, and I would pull this list out and I would just look at it. I'd go, these are my 10, 15 reasons why I must absolutely still do this thing. So the first way that we can understand fear and start to break through it is wherever fear is showing up in your life, you want to acknowledge, you want to thank, you want to appreciate the fear for being there to protect you. And then you want to let the fear know, I thank you for being here, but I must do this because of, and then fill in 10 or 15 reasons. Right? What I would encourage you to do is maybe even record a quick voice note and go on a tangent of really why you must achieve this thing. And then after, listen to the voice note, write those things down, and put the list somewhere where you can see it every single day so that anytime fear shows up in your life, you thank the fear and you go back to that list, and it allows you to work and break through that fear. All right. So that's the first way you can start to understand fear. You can start to break through it. And then the second thing we want to look at when it comes to understanding what fear really is and how you can break through it is when fear shows up in your life, you can use a process called reframing. Because what happens a lot of the time is when fear comes into our life, we have been taught as a society that when fear comes up, it means a really, really bad thing. Like when fear shows up, not good things are going to happen. When fear shows up, you should panic, you should run. And we have all these associations with fear equaling not good things. And so therefore, when fear pops up, our instinctual brain, right, the wiring we have goes, oh my God, fear's here. I should be scared. I should be worried. I should freak out. And that's sort of the framing we have around fear. So what you can do to start to understand it and to reframe it is understand that when fear shows up, the way you can reframe it, one of the ways, there's many ways, but one of the ways you can reframe it is start to understand that when fear shows up, all it really means is that whatever you're about to do is actually really, really important to you. So when fear shows up, now rather than going, oh my God, something bad's going to happen, freak out and run and panic, when fear shows up, reframe and retrain your brain to go, oh my God, fear showed up. All this means is that there's something really important about to happen in my life. There's something important I'm moving towards. I am in alignment with the direction I'm supposed to be going in my life, right? If you can start to reframe that, now when fear shows up in your life, you almost can begin to celebrate the fear because you know it's an indicator that you're moving towards something that's important in your life, right? Because let's say that, there's something not important in your life. There's no fear around it because you don't really care. It's not really important, right? Let's say, for example, you're working a job, you don't love it, and you have to go do a few things at your job, like answer emails, give a presentation that you always give, or you got to, do whatever it is, right? Send some emails, host a meeting, whatever it is. and there's no fear around it, it's because one, maybe you've been doing it a while, and two, it may not be as important to you. So you don't really have fear around it. So what you want to understand again is the way you can start to reframe fear is rather than when fear shows up in your life being scared, understand that when fear shows up, it means that there's something important that's about to happen in your life, right? When fear shows up all the time, it really means that you are pursuing the right things in your life. And then when the fear shows up and you start to understand, okay, man, this thing's important. I'm excited, right? Get pumped up because fear's coming into your life, right? If you never have fear, it means you're never stretching, you're never growing, and maybe you're not doing things that are actually that important to you. It's the moments that when fear show up and you drive through it, that unbelievable things happen in your life. Man, it is when you work through fear and you get to the other side, there is an indescribable thing that happens because you actually start to get to the other side of fear, which is really where most of the things that you want in your life live. And so one of the ways you can start to work through it, right? You break through it. So now you understand, okay, fear is actually not, scary, but it just means I'm doing something that's important. And the way that you can start to break through it is combining two ingredients that I believe if you combine these two ingredients in your life, you'll build a beautiful life for yourself. And you'll be able to continuously work through fear over and over and over. And the two ingredients are courage and faith. Courage and faith, right? And so when fear shows up in your life, you want to muster up some courage, right? Something scary is here, but you realize it's important, but there's still sort of that, internal fight or flight response that kicks on in your body. You have to muster up some courage and go, man, this is scary and I still have some fear and I understand that it's important, but I'm still kind of scared. So you know what? I need to muster up some courage and I need to make this thing happen. I need to take action on this thing that I know I'm supposed to do with my life. And then the second piece is you have to have faith. You have to have faith. Right? You have to have faith that when you take this action, you do this thing that is around fear, you have to have faith that it's going to work out. And when you have faith, yeah, sometimes it's not going to work out. But when you have faith, sometimes it is going to work out. Right? Another reframing you could ask yourself is rather than looking at, well, what if it goes wrong? Start to ask yourself, well, what if it goes right? What if it goes right? I personally believe that if you want to create an incredible quality of life, the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of courage and faith that you've used in your life. If you haven't had a lot of courageous moments, if you haven't had a lot of moments where you had to really tap into your faith, and not saying this in a religious way, but like the faith of believing that something greater is on the other side, right? The faith of believing that what you want is going to happen, right? If you have more courageous moments in your life and more moments where you execute and build this muscle of faith, you are going to have a greater quality of life. If you don't have a great quality of life, ask yourself, when was the last time you did something courageous? When was the last time you had some faith that things were going to be better on the other side? And if you're feeling stuck and you're not feeling like you're progressing or moving forward in your life, the answer, and I know this, is that you probably haven't had any courageous or faithful moments lately. Right? So have more courage, have more faith, use those two ingredients, and that is how you will begin to break through this fear when it shows up. All right? So those are the two different ways you can start to, again, understand fear, start to break through it. And I want to wrap up today's episode with a quote around fear. And as I told you earlier, it's my favorite quote, literally, I think, in the world. And so I'll read it out loud to you. But what this quote is here's the quote. And it's that our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were all meant to shine as children do. It's not just in some of us, it's in all of us. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. I hope that quote resonates with you. I hope it maybe struck a chord. And I hope it made you maybe even realize that sometimes the deepest fears that we have, again, are not that we are inadequate. It's that we are powerful beyond measure, that we can create anything that we want with our lives. And sometimes that's scary. So take that quote, if you want, post it somewhere so you can use it as some guiding force to work through fear anytime it shows up in your life. But that is what we have for you today, my friends. I want to say thank you so much, as always, for hanging out with me on the podcast. It is such a joy to come here and have a conversation with you every single week and pour into you to help you create a life full of passion, full of fulfillment, full of happiness, and build a life that you truly love. If you have not already, make sure you give yourself a pat on the back and a round of applause, because you're one of the few who is not willing to settle for less than a life that lights up your soul. And that is absolutely something that you have to celebrate. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here. Practice, remember, the gratitude. Practice acknowledging the fear when it comes and shows up in your life, and use some of these tools to go then break through it. If you haven't already, make sure you please subscribe to the show so we can hang out every single week. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be so honored if you would leave us a review. It's how we get this in front of more people, and it's how we make the show better for you. So leave us a review. Let me know what you like, what you want more of, all of the goodness. And without that, that's all we got for you today. If you want to hang out more, I got another episode coming up right after this, so don't feel like you need to stick around, or don't feel, like you need to leave. But if you want to stick around, I have another episode coming up in just a little bit. So other than that, my friend, have a wonderful day. You're amazing. You are outstanding. You are brilliant. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.